injury, how was the Asian art kind of events?
You know, it was we had a really good time. We went up to the Indian room first, and because I think it was Taj hadn't really heard me do the tour, so I did just the first few minutes of the tour in the Indian art section. And then we went on this tour of Japanese art, which was really lovely, but there wasn't any Buddhist art. Like they had taken all the Buddhist art except for one bodhisattva, which she didn't even mention on the tour. They had taken all the Buddhist art out of the Japanese rooms. There's the one room with the screens. Oh,
I'm okay.
You're right.
Okay.
okay.
Sorry about that.
No, I'm sorry. Let's put a towel down or something, Derek. One of those black towels could go there if it's wet. Yeah. No, it's okay. I'm just glad you're okay. Yep. Maybe right there by the door, Derek, so when people come in, they can dry off. Oof.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before, but they surprisingly, I think like the Japanese section seems to be their least like comprehensive, it seems at the
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that's because, Freer wasn't particularly interested in Japanese art or it's not Alcott, but I'm forgetting his name, the other person who they sent over to Asia to buy for them. Very famous curator guy whose name escapes me right at this moment, was more interested in Indian art and Chinese art, apparently. But anyhow, it was still a lovely tour, and I thought she did a very nice job of pointing out some of the detail that people often miss, you know? Like even how to identify the actors in the ukiyo and things like that. So it was cool. It was a beautiful tour. Need to have glasses on.
I'm wondering if you have a piece of paper and
Or then. Sorry, excuse me.
wondering if you have a piece of paper. I'll make a careful caution slippery sign.
Oh, I mean there's some paper upstairs. I don't think there's like paper for a sign here downstairs, but you could.
Paper in my car. I can go get that.
No, I don't. I mean, I really think it's okay that people know it's going to be kind of wet. Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay.
But thank you for offering.
Can you tell if I'm on the camera?
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. You are. You want to sit over there? Okay, great. Hi, welcome everyone. We're just getting settled in. Can you hear me okay over there? Okay, good. Welcome, Stick and Melanie. So good to see you both. And Hamsa, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Brad. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hi, Dana. Good morning. And Kim, I see you there.
Yeah.
No need to come on screen.
Yeah.
Good morning. Sorry, you're gonna have to remind me of your name.
Andy.
Andy, thank you. I had it last time, but then welcome again.
Thank you.
Hello, Debbie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing over there?
Okay, doing okay. Sitting in a tall chair like a big kid. And having had so much time, relatively downtime, I have like 3 talks prepared for today. I'll try to only give one.
You can bank the others.
Uh-huh, maybe. It's all about, what I feel inspired to share about each week, and what I think kind of meets with some particular state of the world or something that somebody shared with me about what they're struggling with, or try to meet those things. Yeah. Hi, Beth. Good morning. And Kelly. Kelly, welcome. Okay, Hogyo Richard is here. Morning. Hello, Hiram, welcome. Hi, Michelle, welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Anne, welcome. Okay, welcome, Susan. Welcome, Krista. Hello, Joso. And Mark, good morning, welcome. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Susan, there you are. Hi, Julia, good morning. And Christopher, hello, welcome. Welcome, Fumyo. Hello. Richard, did you have something you wanted to say? I see your mic is unmuted
Oh,
there.
no, I didn't.
Okay.
I just didn't mute.
It's all right. A warm welcome again to each and every one of you. So beautiful to be gathered here together, taking care of our lives by practicing Dhamma, by hearing and contemplating the Dhamma. It's a beautiful thing. And so this morning is the Sunday Sounds program, and that means that, as usual, we'll do about half an hour of guided meditation, half an hour of Dhamma talk, and half an hour of questions, reflections, and comments before closing with the dedication of merit. So, hi, welcome. So just a couple of announcements before we get started with the meditation. Let's see. So our next Sangha brunch is going to be happening on July 12th. That's right after the Sunday Sounds program. It's going to be hosted by Kodo. And it'll be here. Hi, welcome. Come on in. Have a seat anywhere. Please feel free to put down some more mats or cushions or chairs. Also, the fall retreat, the autumn retreat, is open for registration now. So I will be co-leading that with Jeff Rosenberg. The theme is about living your life fully, how to be fully engaged with your life. And there are two options actually for this retreat. It's not usually done that way. Hi, welcome. Yes, come on in. One option is a weekend option, arriving on Friday, leaving on Sunday at midday or so. And the other option is a week-long option, arriving on Friday and leaving the following Saturday. So that's on the website for IMCW, Insight Meditation Community of Washington. There are hosts out there at the beautiful retreat center called Seven Oaks, just a couple hours drive south of the vihara here. And what else is happening? Summer Book Club, always a favorite, starts July 15th. It's a, what is it? It's not a class, it's a conversation. And it's drop-in, so no registration necessary. You can find out more about that on the calendar page. All right, so we have apparently arrived. And if everybody could mute their mics, that would be helpful. Just making sure that everybody who's online has muted their mics right and everybody in the room has turned off their phones. Beautiful. And so this morning I thought we would do a meditation on the senses, on the sense fields. You know, traditionally in Buddhism, we speak about 6 sense fields. So the usual ones that you're familiar with: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. And then the 6th sense field is knowing or cognizing or thinking. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
I'm here. Sorry.
hola Claudia.
Hola.
No hay que disculparse. Gracias por venir. Déjame ver cómo hago para aprender esto. Aquí en el globito. Ya Zoom sabe que tú eres intérprete. Entonces, para cualquier persona que haya venido esperando una charla en español, se consigue la interpretación bajo el globo en el menú de Zoom. Muy bienvenidos a toda la comunidad hispanohablante. All right. So Claudia is going to do some Spanish interpretation, simultaneous interpretation for us. But we'll go ahead and begin the meditation now with settling into an upright and balanced posture. Perhaps rocking the body from side to side and front to back. And moving the head. Until it comes into alignment with the spine. Just allowing the body to settle right here in this place. And releasing any tension that you can let go of in this moment. And beginning our meditation on the senses by turning your attention to feel the contact of your body with the supports beneath you. That sense of touch. No need to make anything happen at all. Just receiving the sensations of touch. On your seat. All sorts of other thoughts and sensations might arise. And they can just be like the radio playing in the next room. While the attention stays gently resting on the sensations of touch. And now a shift to turn the attention to sensations of smell. They might be very strong or very subtle. Again, just resting the attention on receiving sensations of smell, even perhaps the ones that are very neutral or subtle. Being curious about the sensations of smell each moment. And now another shift. Turning attention to sensations of hearing. Resting the attention on hearing sounds or silence. Notice that you don't need to go out and look for sound or find its source. Sound just arrives and is known. Just receiving sensations of sound, sensations of hearing, and noticing how they shift from moment to moment. And now another shift to turn to mind as a sense organ, mind as a sense field. So, how is it to receive thoughts as mere sensations in the mind? Just like a sound or a smell or a touch. Just observing mental activity as sensations. And now for these last few minutes of the meditation, rather than focusing on just one sense field, just allowing the flow of experience and noticing which senses arise. Could you hand me one of that green cushion? One of those two green cushions, please. Thank you. Bear with me for a moment there, folks. All right, so that brings us to time for the Dhamma talk. And as usual, I'm going to begin with the homage to the Triple Gem. And I'll bring it up on screen. Everyone online, please keep your mics muted, but feel free to chant along if you would like, or to just let it wash over you. This is in the ancient Prakrit language of Pali, and it's a reminder of just paying our respects to the real foundations of our practice. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. One question that often arises in practice is whether we should be secluded and be focused inwardly on our own experience, or whether we should be in the world and practicing more actively, more in a more engaged way. And goodness knows there are any number of responses to that question. But I thought that today I would bring you a little Zen story or two that speaks to that. It's rare that I teach Zen, even though that's my lineage, my ordination lineage. But this particular story is one that I've told before, and I really appreciate it for its insights. So the story comes from a text. It comes from what we call fascicles, and fascicles just means chapters of a book that are written, are kind of released over a long period of time. So Eihei Dogen, the founder of Soto Zen, a Japanese form of Buddhism, wrote a lot. He's a very prolific writer, and he wrote his life's work. His main life's work was called Shobogenzo, and within Shobogenzo there's one chapter called Raihai Tokuzui, means bowing and attaining the marrow, or the essence, or the heart of it. And in this chapter that he wrote, he tells the story of a Chinese Zen master named Miaoxin. And her story is particularly interesting, not just because she's a woman, but also because of the role that she played in the monastery, where she was one of the temple officers. And we also see a little bit about another koan that'll come up in a moment, another teaching story. But Miaoxin was about late 9th century China, She practiced with a very famous master, Yangshan, and she was very deeply respected by him, so much so that when it came time to choose the temple officer who would be the person who would stay at the base of the mountain, at the first place where visitors would encounter this monastery and the teachings of Yangshan, she was the one selected to be that person. And it's a very high honor because the mountain, the monastery is at the top of the mountain, right? And so Myashin was fit to be the first point of contact, if you will, for Yangshan's teaching. And it so happens that there were 17 monks who came from another part of China on pilgrimage to see her teacher, to see Yangshan. But they arrived at the foot of the mountain a little bit too late to go all the way up. You can't go up in the dark. So they had to stay overnight. And that's fine. There's a place for them to do that. That's the part of the area that Myashin was responsible for, Myashin Roshi, or Venerable Myashin, we might call her. And, and so in the evening, these monks were sitting around and they were talking about a story, a teaching story. And to tell you briefly, the teaching story is that there were two monks arguing about a flag. The flag was moving or the wind was moving. So these two monks were having an argument. This is a koan from a collection called The Gateless Gate, the Mumon Kan. And case 29, actually, from Mumon Kan. And so these two monks were having an argument, and the sixth ancestor, known as Daikaneno in Japanese or Weinang in Chinese, saw them, and he came up and he said, "It's not the flag moving, it's not the wind moving, it's your mind moving." Ah, beautiful, right? Beautiful. It's a brilliant teaching. It's very consistent with the teachings of early Buddhism, right? So I brought my one and only favorite prop, and the way that it's described is that if the light hits your eye, it's not pizza pie, no. If the light hits your eye, but the consciousness is not able to attend to that, then it's not experienced. But when the mind is able to be with that, then there is a moment of eye consciousness that arises, persists while changing, and eventually ceases. So that is a very, very fundamental teaching of Buddhism, that all experience is known by the mind, except for Nibbana. That's a whole other topic. We won't go there right now. So it's beautiful. These two monks were arguing basically about causes and conditions and the external world, if you will. And the sixth ancestor says to them, pay attention to your mind. Understand how it works, that you know that you've experienced that you can see that, just as we did in the meditation just now, right? So going back to Myashin, these 17 monks who were waiting their turn to go up and see her teacher are sitting around and having a conversation about this koan. And she overhears them commenting on it and saying, you know, what they think it means or how they've practiced with it. And she says, "These 17 blind donkeys are wasting their sandals and haven't even approached the way of enlightenment. Now, we don't have the tone of how she said this, right? As if it's something that comes to us in writing. But I imagine this is a kind of funny way, right, of talking about them. These 17 blind asses. Right? So one of the attendants there who was helping her goes and tells these guys her commentary on their commentary. And so what do? They put on their formal robes. They do something very skillful. They put on their formal robes. And they request a meeting with her. And they come in and they bow and they offer incense and they ask for a teaching. Very, very skillful, right? So she says, okay, come a little closer. This is an important detail that has been preserved over the centuries. Come a little closer. And as they're getting closer, before they even get a chance to settle down again in their seats or where they're standing, she says, it's not the flag moving, it's not the wind moving, it's not the mind moving. Wow. So what's happening here? Is Venerable Miaoshin disagreeing with the sixth ancestor? Arguably the most revered of the ancestors? Someone a few generations before her in her lineage? Well, what does the teaching mean? What does her teaching mean? To say that it's not the mind moving. So what she is pointing at, I would suggest, is that there is this tendency to separate one's mind from what one is experiencing. And if we understand the degree to which all things are interrelated, interdependent, present because of their interrelationships, then you can understand that the mind and the flag and the wind are all part of the whole, of the universe, of all things. And all things doesn't move. There's no place for it to go. Right? All things doesn't move. There may be all manner of relationship and interactivity that is happening within all things. Indeed there is, and we need to recognize that. But when you understand that sense of, or when you have, I would say, experienced in your bones, deeply, profoundly, that this boundary between yourself or your mind and what you experience is arbitrary, then you can see the whole. So she is talking about erasing dualism or duality. And that too, that too is happening. So she's not contradicting the sixth ancestor. She's simply pointing out the, you could say, the error in the way that these folks are relating to the teaching of the sixth ancestor, right? The way in which they are using that teaching to reify this thing called mind. It's a very common thing. I see it all the time. People, in fact, so Dassanaya and I have an Instagram account, and I'm on there periodically, and the algorithm has figured out that in addition to soft, fluffy animals and good news about the climate, I also like to read things about Buddhism. And then I will see these things there that are ostensibly Buddhism, right? In which it says, oh, you are not your thoughts, you are the one who observe your thoughts. But that too is just an attachment to the observer. That's nonsense. Nonsense. All things are based on dependent arising. All things. So it's interesting that centuries later, Mumon, for whom this koan collection is named, right? Mumon, who commented on the koans in the collection called the Gateless Gate or the Gate Without Barrier, quotes Miaoshin in his comment and says, it's not the mind moving. Huh? But without naming her. So it's important to know the history as well, right? It's important to understand where are the sources of these teachings, and how is it that they are saying something similar or something different. So Miaoshin points to this lived experience as something incredibly vast, all-encompassing. And the sixth ancestor points to this lived experience as this moment of that, this specific moment of that, the state of all things as it is right now. And both things are necessary for the path. Indeed, I would say that the Buddha said time and time again, by studying this body and mind, we can know the truths of our lives and of all things. So centuries after Mumon, then Dogen is praising Miaoshin, but also praising those monks, right? For their practice of curiosity. Oh yes, how is it? How is it? Being willing to open their hearts and their minds to learning from anyone who has wisdom to share. Because they too are it, right? They too are that expression of what is complete about all things. Mm-hmm. In later tradition, sometimes that gets called Buddha nature. But be careful, huh? It's not a thing. It's not a gem in your pocket, despite what the Lotus Sutra says. Huh? The whole is the gem. Everything. This body, this mind, all bodies, all minds, all everything. Huh? So how can we know this, though? How can we really understand this? Well, for one, we have this good example of these monks who went on pilgrimage. Sometimes you don't stay home. Sometimes you go and put your sandals on and take a walk with your buddies. Right? And go practice somewhere else. I had the good fortune to do that in many, many, many places. Many places. And sometimes you just sit still. Really still. And it cracks open for you. The jewel reveals itself. Because it has always been right here in front of you. Right here, through you, right here, as you. But sadly, we spend our time arguing about the flag instead. So don't do that. Don't do that. Find out about your relationship to the world and your relationship to yourself. And you will see that sense of separation, of loneliness, of separateness, of me versus them, of boundary. It's all just a wisp of a thought. So what would I say to those 17 blind asses? I would say, keep walking. Keep walking until you can feel the galaxy under your feet. Keep walking. And to Myashin, I would say, don't let your head get too big. The flag, we still need a flag once in a while. Those flags are helpful on the path. Let 1,000 flags greet you at the door of awakening. Okay, dear friends, so that is what I wanted to share with you today. Actually, as I was saying earlier, I had 3 talks prepared today, so maybe you got lucky that I didn't give you all 3 talks. But I'm happy to explore further hear your comments, questions, reflections on this topic, these multiple topics that have come up here, or on the meditation. And for folks in the room, we have this little mic here, so if you don't mind, you can, whoop, I lost my cushion. You can use the mic with the little blue light upward. That's how it works, so folks online can hear you. Thank you. Thanks. I have a knee injury, so I'm in a strange, what feels to me like a strange position for teaching. In a chair, seated in a chair. Okay. Who would like to say something first? I promise not to call you a blind ass. How's that? No matter what you say. Yes, Brad. This is right up your alley.
My blind alley,
Mm.
the blind alley of the blind ass. Um, yeah, I'm reminded of why I dropped out of most Buddhist discussion groups. It's just, you know, chasing flags, chasing minds, chasing, concepts, and yeah. So a lot of blind asses around, arguing about the Dharma, and just in terms of the practice that we did, is a reminder. Actually, the practice was demonstrating exactly what you were talking about. That if we can drop out of our concepts into our direct experience, where does the sound begin? Where does I begin? Where does that end?
Mm-hmm.
Where does the sense of the cushion begin? The earth, my body, my body, the body.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's what I try to do, is have the meditation match the talk. It doesn't always work out that way, but but yeah, working with the sense bases, I really enjoy that. I always feel joyful, and I always feel a sense of energy when I work with the sense bases or attune to the sense bases. Maybe because I think all of us have certain preferences, right? I am a very auditory person, for example, and it took a very long time for me to really receive the visual on an equal footing, if you will. And so I think each one of us has different tendencies with regard to that. And just, we didn't do all of them, of course, as you heard, but just, yeah, that incredible mechanism, that miraculous mechanism that's at work is so close. It's right here. Right here. Indeed, I should not even say close. It's not close or far. It is just what it is. It is just what we're experiencing. Similarly, it was interesting. I had a lecture by another teacher that I studied with years ago, Shinshu Roberts Roshi, and she was out in Santa Cruz, and she was giving a talk about another of Dogen's teachings, and she was quoting Dogen in Mountains and Rivers, where he says water is not wet or dry, or is not hot or cold, or is not up or down, or strong or weak. It is just as it is. It is just as it is. At least that's my interpretation of that particular sutra. Okay. Yes, Dig.
Yeah, so this was during the guided meditation. I had a sense of the body leaning way over here towards Melanie. And I wanted to open up my eyes and see if that were the case. And I opened up the eyes, and there's a slight leaning. So coming back to the visual field and distortion, which I've had lots of issues with, it was kind of revealing to see how the mind was experiencing something very different than the sight door was actually revealing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a very important point there, Stig, right? That the same phenomena experienced through a different sense door is a different experience, right? As you already know the example I always use is the smell of the flower is different than the taste of the flower, yuck, versus the sight of the flower, right? It has a different impact on the mind. And in the brain too. I mean, when I'm talking about mind, I'm not talking about brain, but we want to talk about brain as like a sort of stand-in for that, it's also true. Yeah, great observation, Stig. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Debbie. Oh, and then Carolyn, did I see Carolyn had her hand up? Okay, Carolyn can be next.
I'm curious why you start out with Zen today, and in Zen practice, my understanding is that people sit with their eyes a little bit open. At least that seems to be, whereas in Theravada, it seems to be we mostly sit with our eyes closed. And I'm wondering, how does that relate to what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, so there are a couple of different reasons that folks sit with their eyes open in Zen. One is related to this in the sense of not shutting off or trying to shut off any of the sense fields, right? Mind you that you're not kind of staring downward. With the idea is to have the eyes very slightly open and unfocused, just a little bit of light or soft color coming in there. The other reason, though, is kind of a more practical reason, which is that in Soto Zen, and I'm not sure about Rinzai, honestly, but in Soto Zen for sure, we generally are lined up sitting facing the wall or sitting facing like a curtain in between or a divider between the seats. So you can have your eyes open without getting more stimulation, so to speak. You just have one phenomena or one color or one thing in front of you. Versus in the Theravada, generally speaking, people are instructed to sit facing toward the Buddha or facing in whatever direction they want to be, toward the speaker or, right, kind of toward the front of the room if they're in a general room. And what happens with that is that if you're in a room packed with people and you're all facing in the same direction, if you are meditating with your eyes open, then you're seeing that person in front of you and all their little fidgeting or what color, what their shirt says about what concert they went to or whatever else, right? So the idea was, okay, let's not engage in that kind of stimulation and we could have our eyes more closed. And then lastly, I would say also that most Zen students are either following the breath, counting the breath, or they're practicing shikantaza, which is a form of, we could say, like choiceless awareness, like that last part of the meditation where you're just allowing the flow of experience and being with it. Versus in early Buddhism, there are many meditations that are actually visualizations or meditations like the samadhi states, the jhana states, where there are light phenomena happening that you want to be able to observe. It's telling you something about the meditation that you're in and the quality of the mind. So you need to have your eyes closed for that too. Okay, Carolyn.
Thank you so much for the beautiful talk. So glad to be here.
Wonderful to see
So
you.
I have a question. I guess, I'm kind of understanding progress in the story from grosser views to more subtle views. So like it's the flag or it's the wind. No, it's the mind that moves. That's a more subtle view, I would say. But then they're still clinging because it's still it's the mind. And so it seems like we're kind of using the subtle understanding to defeat the more gross understanding, but then we still have to give that up because it's also a kind of clinging when I think I have an understanding, and it's the mind, or, so it's like these stepping stones till where we can just, give up trying to say this is the thing. Does that sound right?
Yes, I think you can definitely read it that way. And I think that's why Mumon ultimately quotes Miaoxin as his comment on the koan, right? Because he felt like that was, taking the next step or sort of correcting whatever clinging might be inherent in the teaching that was offered there. And that said, part of what I was trying to point to in the talk is this specificity of things is the expression of interrelationship in any given moment, right? You can, if you study the flag, the experience of flag well enough, you can unlock, right, this sense of interdependence and interrelationship. Or if you study the mind, you could also do that, right? So it's like that. It's like rather than thinking of it as a hierarchy, I think of it as parts of the puzzle. Right. And because although I moved to Japan because of the vastness of my teacher's teaching, we actually have to deal with the flag, Sooner or later, we have to deal with this mind, and we have to deal with this world that we're living in and make our peace with that by knowing, right? By knowing the greater truths about it. So I think of it as the puzzle rather than this kind of sequential. Although I'm happy to uphold Miaoxin as being, an excellent teacher who potentially, corrected something that the sixth ancestor said. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, please. I'll give you this.
Do I press anything? Do I just speak?
Nope, you could just speak right into the little round part there.
Yeah, I just want to say the same thing I think Carolyn asked and you said in my words. I think they're all true, right? I mean, the wind moves, the flag moves, the mind moves. And it's not getting stuck on anything. It's like holding it all together. Because it's not like concepts are bad, experience is better. It's like it's all at the same time.
Yes.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yes. Like that. Or in Zen, the phrase that we often use for it is not one, not two.
Right.
Right? So we don't lose the specificity or the causes and conditions of wind and flag and mind, but we also know the whole. So not one, meaning keeping the specificity, not two, meaning understanding the complete interrelationship and interpenetration of all things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Julia.
I hope I don't know if this makes sense, but is it fair to say, thank you, I'm not sure who it was commenting because that sort of crystallized something that I was thinking. Is it fair to say that it's all, therefore it's none? In the sense that you can't separate, it's being. Does that make sense at all? I haven't quite formed it, but it's almost an intuitive thing.
Yep.
When you're with all of it, you're not with any of it.
In a sense, yes. In a sense, yes. I mean, where you're starting to go there, Julia, is the teaching of emptiness, right? So teaching of emptiness means, you could say, insubstantiality. But it's an insubstantiality that's based on conditionality, right? In other words, that we can't, that we do, but it's arbitrary, make this sense of separation of this body or that chair or that thing. But, so when the whole is experienced, you could say it's not you that experiences the whole experiences the whole. Right? Yeah. We have one more person here in the room, and then...
Yeah, my question was, I mean, kind of like a follow-up to all these thoughts we had about clinging to one sense door, whether it's the flag or the... You could also say, well, it's the eyes that see the flickering of the flag. If I want to connect to a more equanimous place because I'm gripped by one of those perceptions, I mean, I came to my mind that I need to switch the channel, so to go to a different sense door and say, is this still the same experience, or am I just making this up, that the flag is waving, or that is my eye telling me something else than my mind? Or is there another way to kind of change my relationship to what is going on? I mean, I would like to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so you can try changing to another sense door, but as we said, as the conversation that I shared with Stig, it will look different from a different sense door. It's the same thing, but it will look different. It's intended to, that's just the mechanism that's there. So oftentimes what I try to talk about is there are three different facets of three different kind of angles to look at any particular experience. You can look at it from the content. That's the view of there is a flag and the flag is doing this thing. You can look at it from process, and usually that's a five aggregates view of this thing. This is the process view, right? That there's a visual phenomena, there is an eye, there is a consciousness that can attend to that, and then that causes a Vedana feeling tone, that causes a perception, and then there is a reaction to that perception. In the case of those monks, that reaction was fighting, arguing about it, right? So when you take the process view, you can see that all experience is working based on that same phenomena. And that eventually kind of untangles this tendency to reify it, to identify with it, because it's just a mechanism. It's just a machine that works in that particular way, or a set of phenomena, right? So, or people often experience it as like a flow. Right? But there's a third perspective, and the third perspective is where things tend to really kind of go from the specific to the whole, and that is that you can see that there are specific there are conditions that are present at the same time in order for any phenomena to be here, and that is eventually you see, if you take that to the nth degree, all conditions have to be in the state they are right now in the world for the world to be as it is. Right? So it's like taking a slice of the universe and say, okay, in this moment, the universe is like X, right? And we take a photograph of that and we see, oh yeah, right, this tremendous sense of non-separation. Sometimes people try to approach it from the boundlessness of mind, so doing these kind of boundless meditations where you can experience the mind as being without limits. But the thing about that is that it's a very, you could say, it's a very intentional temporary state. So then you haven't convinced your mind actually that that's how the world is all the time. So it's more in the detail that where it kind of tends to unlock itself. And that's why Vipassana, so the Vipassana movement in the United States when early Buddhism came to the United States. Over the decades, that kind of what we call vipassana, which is the kind of study of moments of experience, became the primary teaching that we see in American Buddhist communities. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay. Yeah. The metaphor that I like to use sometimes for that is it's a bag of jelly beans. Every experience is a jelly bean. And after you have, you know, a whole handful of jelly beans, eventually you will just put the bag down. You will see that every jelly bean is going to be the same. Sadly, we're past jelly bean season now, and we're moving into watermelon season. So you can use watermelon pits too, I guess, if you want. Okay. Any other questions or reflections? Yes. Melanie, was that you who had your hand up?
Yeah, I've been experiencing in my sits, it's like I launch, settle in, and I do what you're supposed to do, and then the mind starts sifting, and I'm noting, and then there's a disconnect, and like a nothingness, and then I'm falling asleep. I've tried to, it could be that I'm just really very tired, just in my mind's eye because of so much that's been going on. But I'm wondering what if the mind is really powerful, I know that, and it does things to help you actually get through difficult things. And one of them is one strategy for some people, not everyone, is to disconnect. And so I've been trying to treat this with grace because it's kind of I think the mind is telling me something. I think it's a signal. It's like it's not an enemy, it's a friend. And if I feel as if I treat it like a friend, then it will expand and reveal what it really is. I have this gut feeling, but just riding with it, this concept.
No, I appreciate that concept. I think it is true that in fact, I would say it's an important maturing point in practice when you start to realize that we are not trying to force a fix on anything. The practice, in fact, the instructions are very clearly trying to work with the way that the mind is and the way that the body is and help us to find our way of working with it. So in your case, Melanie, I would say definitely one thing, yes, you're probably tired, that's one, right? And that kind of dull patch is the hindrance of sloth and torpor. What we use these very old words for dullness and drowsiness, basically. And what I would suggest is very much along the lines of what you're saying of being friends with your mind, which is find a meditation object that is pleasant, that is joyful, and that is pleasant, because that will bring a brightness and a willingness and also a kind of energy, right? So we know that joy is one of the stimulating factors in meditation versus tranquility, which is one of the calming factors, right? So find a meditation object that you find to be really joyful, right? Whether that's the thought of some teaching that really moves you or some teacher, whether that's a joyful feeling of piti in the body, whether that's meditating on loving kindness or compassion or mudita, which is joy, right? Just meditating on joy. So that will help you to have more energy just by the nature of the object itself and the mind interacting with that object.
Okay.
And take a nap. Yeah, great. Okay, friends, I think we are naturally coming to the close here. So, yeah, so next weekend is 4th of July here in the United States, but we will still have on Saturday, but we will still have the Sunday Sounds on the 5th of July as usual. So just also to let you know that unless, things happen, which is what happened last week. So my apologies to folks who showed up last week and didn't find me here to teach. I had, there was an accident and I had to go to get some tests done, and that's where I was, very urgently getting some tests done last week. So, but I'm okay. I'm all right. I have a little bit of a knee injury, but other than that, I'm happy to be here, and we'll be here again next Sunday. So dedicating the merits of our practice here, the beneficial and beautiful karmic momentum and karmic results of this practice, that we and all beings might find clarity, that we might know wisdom and be free of every form of delusion and ignorance. By the power of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, and each one's efforts, may every being be free. All right, friends. See you soon. Be well.